Congressman Devin Nunes is House Intel Staff Director, writing senior FBI and DOJ officials in September of 2017. He wrote this: "The rest of the intelligence community has found a way to provide the committee, the House Intelligence Committee, access to all of the documents it has requested for the investigation, including raw intelligence. I find it interesting that the FBI and Justice are taking a different approach." Joining us now is Congressman Devin Nunes, ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, great to have you with us. This is, well, first I want to start where I left off with Sidney Powell. This is a rotten judiciary, politically corrupt as any agency or department within the federal government, it appears to me. I would love to have your reaction to what we have seen, at least in part, in these statements from the D.C. Court of Appeals regarding the hearing today, an unprecedented hearing, by the way, in law or in practice.
Yeah, thank you, Lou. Thanks for having me on. I mean, first of all, we shouldn't be here today. General Flynn should not be here. We've talked about it many times on your show. But you brought up something. I was able to hear you in the last segment as I was preparing to come on the show. You bring up something very important, and that is the judiciary system of government, that third branch, that holy grail. It slowly has become corrupted. The Democrats seem to put on judges that are purely political, that clearly make political decisions. The Republicans seem to put on, outside of very rare cases, I think you'd have to go back to Justice Scalia, perhaps Justice Thomas, we put on people that seem to be afraid of the mainstream media. So whether it's this decision with Flynn, if you look at some of the recent Supreme Court cases, if you look at some of the Bush appointees and even some of Trump's appointees, we continue to see where we're putting on, I'm glad that we're putting on, and the Senate has put on, hundreds of judges, a record of judges, but that only matters if they're not weak judges, because clearly what's happened here is the judicial system has become completely politicized from top to bottom, and that doesn't include the challenges that we have with the Department of Justice and the FBI that you're very well aware of.
It is deeply troubling to see mob rule in the streets, to see the number of Democrat-run cities in this country that are given over to street violence, to vandalism, looting, and it is pure, raw thuggery and an effort to intimidate not only local officials, but to intimidate all of government and citizens all across this country. And it's going without response, and it's deeply troubling. And as you talk about the strength of justices on the Supreme Court, or the strength and character and integrity of the D.C. Appellate Court, the intimidation factor is large. We don't have to think back too far to recall what happened to Justice Kavanaugh in his confirmation hearing. It was an outright bloodletting from which I don't think any of us would blame him for still having not quite recovered from it. Judicial Watch uncovering the... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, just on Kavanaugh, before we get to that, I mean, you would think, after watching what Judge Kavanaugh and his family went through, that these new Trump judges, at least, would be out there saying, look, enough is enough. That there would be somebody, anyone out there of these new judges that would be saying, this is it. I mean, let's leave General Flynn alone. You can't just have a wild judge that's gone totally crazy, that's trying to prosecute a case himself. That, by the way, that's exactly what the Democrats and Obama, and that was what was in all the mainstream media, and Sullivan was essentially encouraged, pushed to continue to do this. And I think that's the problem here, is that we have these judges that, I don't know, in a lot of cases, I think they just read the mainstream media too much, and they haven't figured out that if you're just reading the mainstream media, you're getting a very skewed view of America. And, you talk about the blue city mayors. The reason we're in this predicament is because I think the people that are living out there in the suburbs and in these big cities that are controlled by Democrats, there is no media. People talk about the First Amendment. The First Amendment does not exist. What's happening here is you have a media that is solely owned and completely controlled by narratives that the left puts out and creates. Need I say, how do you think we got here with the Russia hoax that still continues today? And I know we're going to get to that later. Anyway, sorry to go on that rant.
No, I think that's not a rant. That's a terrific analysis. And as you point out, those fake news organizations, whether they be the Washington Post, owned by Jeff Bezos, the world's wealthiest man, or the New York Times, or CBS or NBC, they're owned by corporate monsters, gigantic corporations. They are making the decisions, not fake news. They create fake news, but those news outlets are operating under the auspices of corporate America. And corporate America is making these decisions about our country. And it is deeply frightening to see the entire Bill of Rights and the U.S. Constitution under threat by economic power. And it is wrong, and the Congress doesn't have the guts to stand up against it. With rare exceptions like yourself, Congressman Jordan, we can go through the list. But there are damn few of you, and too damn few of you, if I may say. You get the last words here, Congressman.
Well, what I would call that, Lou, is it's really the convergence of big business, big government, and the radical left. That's really what we're looking at today. That convergence makes it really easy for socialism and Marxism to take hold in this country. And it appears like that's really what's happened with our judicial branch of government, unfortunately. And I hope that they at some point do stand up for themselves. These new judges need to show that they understand the Constitution and that they're going to step in here and rein in what's really gone wild with dirty cops and dirty media and everything else.
Does John Durham look to you like he's headed for a whitewash of Obamagate?
You know, I'm not as negative as you on that, Lou. I actually think it's a good sign. Now, look, I'm a half-glass full guy. I'm a very positive guy. I actually believe because we've seen no leaks, I think no leaks mean that they're going to actually come out and they're going to uphold the law. And Durham has a long track record of that. And I think that's got to be a good sign for everyone that's following this hoax, the Russia hoax, closely.
I certainly hope I am as wrong as I could possibly be, and that you are every bit as right as the country needs you to be. Congressman Devin Nunes, always a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.